Hello, this is the front desk.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Cracking Backs podcast with your hosts, Dr. Terry Wyman and Dr. Spencer Barron. How you doing this morning, guys?
Doing great, buddy.
Great, Lance.
That's great to hear. So today we are joined by Jim Sayih. Jim Sayih has dedicated his life to service, and he currently serves as Executive Director of Special Compass, a nonprofit 501c3 organization serving those who are differently abled. Jim authored the best-selling book, The Success Secret, and has a new book on the way, United Men of Honor. And I think that book will be out by the time this episode's up. Isn't that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's, and that's kind of why we're having you on, Jim. I mean, this show is going to be released around that Thanksgiving week, and it turns out your birthday. And we're looking for a guest that kind of embodied the whole term thankful. And, you know, when my co-host told me about you, there was no doubt in our mind that you had to be the guy for that week and that show. And so let's just start right off the bat so our audience gets to know who you are and why we're thankful. You have two sons, Michael and Adam. And one of them, Michael, has some, let's just say, unique challenges. And you coined a term called differently abled, which I had never heard before. And I freaking love that term, by the way. So with that as an intro, explain your story and let the audience know who you are and why you tick.
Well, thanks for having me. I really feel very honored to share my story on your platform. I know and respect Dr. Barron, and he's such an animal. He's so good to talk to. When I go in and get some sessions, we have good conversation. Smart guy, real smart. My background is sports science, and I appreciate all the things that he shares with me. I always leave there a little bit smarter. So thank you, Dr. Barron.
Oh, that's awesome.
My two boys have the same birthday, June 15, 91 and 92. Oh, Michael came out on Adam's first birthday. And when Michael came out, he came out as an emergency. I was actually on patrol working in a pretty rough area of Miami, and I was on duty. And I back in those days, we didn't have cell phones, so cops would go into convenience stores and use their landlines and talk and make their phone calls there. The convenience stores loved it because we got cops in their place, and we loved it because we had a phone that we could use and didn't actually have to go to the station, and we could still be on our beat. So I'm talking to Michael's mother, and she tells me right before I hang up that she's bleeding. And I said, hang up the phone, go to the hospital right now, and I'll meet you there. So I'm leaving Miami. I live in Broward, so I'm hustling up to Broward to get to the hospital. When I get there, she's in the emergency room hemorrhaging. So the doctor's telling me, we can do two things. And I said, we're going to do one thing. Cut the baby out now. No more talking, nothing. Let's just go. I got to sign papers, this and that. I go, let's sign as we walk. Let's just go get it done. Cut him out now. So they cut him out in like 2 minutes. Michael comes out like 3.8 pounds. He's just this little thing. And a year ago, Adam was born, also a C-section, 10 pounds. Look at that contrast, right?
Oh, jeez.
So Michael stays there for 10 days. We go home. And then after 10 days, Michael seems like everything's fine. 6 weeks later, he gets an earache, has an ear infection. I take him to the doctors. They look at things. They're going, one thing led to another, and they said, we have to do more tests. I go, it's an ear infection. What kind of test? We think he has meningitis. And I'm like, well, just do what you got to do. And we spent the night there. And then next morning, I'm seeing a neurologist. The neurologist says, can you tell me about the birth? Because the hospital I was at with him for the ear infection was not the same one where he was born. So they didn't know anything about Michael. So the neurologist, and I was a little surprised that I was actually talking to a neurologist, says to me, draws on a napkin both hemispheres of the brain and starts shading in areas of the brain. and tells me that this is your son's brain, and what I'm shading in is brain damage. So I'm hearing this for the first time, and I'm thinking, did you say brain damage? And the neurologist says, yeah. He goes, can you tell me about the birth? I described the birth. And then later, this was a big nut to swallow. And I'm thinking, are you sure? And they're like, we're sure. And so now 2 more neurologists come in, and they're describing to me my options. They're like, well, you have 2 options. You know, you can, you're not going to see how he moves until he starts getting older. And then you're going to expect him to walk, talk, all these things, and he's not going to do any of those things. And they go, it's going to be a little much for you because his level of brain damage, they have 5 levels, and he is in the severe level, and that's the 4th level, second to the highest. And they go, based on that, he won't do anything. He won't speak. He won't feed himself. You're going to have to be constantly 100% care of your son. He says, but you don't have to. You can institutionalize him, and you don't have to take this burden. And all I kept hearing, all I heard, it just seemed, it was like just major tunnel vision where all I could hear was just like a muffled sound. And then, you know, I remember the doctor was trying to get my attention, and I didn't realize I kind of faded away, not listening, because I was already thinking of which direction I'm going. And finally he brought me back into the conversation, and he says, well, you know, he says, what are you thinking? And I go, there's only one option. I mean, my son's he's going to live with me, and he's going to live and do everything that we do. We're going to include him in everything. And he says, I don't think you realize what you're saying. You may be motivated to say these things. I respect you for that, but I don't think you realize what kind of challenge you're taking on. And I said, I think we're done. I said, I still have to go home and explain this to his mother. She wasn't there. So I had to go home with him and explain all of this to her. So I go home, I explain it to her, and she, you know, took it like you guys can, you know, imagine. And then started figuring out, you know, how we're gonna move on. So I found a place in Philadelphia called the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential. It's a massive mansion divided in half, donated by some billionaire. And the conditions of this donation was that neurologists would, on one half of the building, of the mansion, would be dedicated to developing and researching prodigies, little kids who can jam out on the violin, do gymnastics, prodigies. And the other half was dedicated to brain injuries, from coma, profound brain injuries, to mild brain injuries. So I found it, and I went there, and I spent 2 weeks up there. Michael's being assessed, and I'm learning child brain development. So for 2 weeks, I'm in classes, and at the same time, Michael's getting therapy and prescriptions on home physical therapy. 5 years this went on. I did these prescriptions for 5 years. I had volunteers come to my house for 12 hours a day. Each hour was a shift of new volunteers, usually 4 volunteers an hour. And this went on for 5 years. And then in year 5, I said, I go, hey, we're going to go do a 5K. You want to not a 5K, it was a duathlon. The first run was a 5K. The second part was a 30K bike, and the last part was a 5K. I said, Michael, you want to go do this? And he was all in. He's like, yeah. So Michael and his brother, we do the duathlon. Now, I had a little makeshift attachment set up to my bike. So we wrecked a few times during the bike. And Michael's, you know, I'm thinking, oh man, this kid's all scratched up. I'm going to go home. I mean, this is going to be bad. So we crossed the finish line. It's all good. I'm thinking he's never going to want to do this again. Sure enough, his brother says, Dad, there's another 5K like a month later. He goes, you want to go do it? And I go, Michael, do you want to go do this 5K again? And immediately, yes, let's go. Let's go do it, right? So today he's 30. Since then, we've been racing multiple races for the past 25 years. Some of them with his brother. And I also adopted a kid who was 12 when I adopted him. He was a friend of Michael, of Adam's, when they were in middle school. and him and his family went through some hardship. So I adopted him. He ended up graduating the same time Adam did. They were the same age. He went on to be a Marine, served 9 years, and now he lives, he's married and lives in South Carolina. Now works for a police department. Go figure that. So he, it was funny because when he was in boot camp in the Marine Corps, you get like 2 or 3 calls during the whole time you're there. He became class leader there, and he calls me halfway through and he says, Dad, I want to fire some guys that are in my platoon. I don't want them in my Marine Corps. I go, Joey, settle down, mister. Take it easy. And anyway, he's had a brilliant career. He's married, has a little daughter, and great young man. So Michael has been doing races, included, never says no to any races. The minute we say, you want to go do this race, he's like, yes. Never once said no. On his 18th birthday, he went skydiving with his best buddy. It's a cool photo of the two of them. They're both turning 18 and they both go skydiving together. If you look them up on YouTube, you'll see the whole skydiving thing, and you'll watch him do it. It's so cool. I don't know how many. There's a lot of views on it. you just see his name, Michael Sayih, and skydive. But the kid says no. There's only one time I can remember we were doing a triathlon, and a storm came in right before the swim start. And everyone's like, oh man, it looks like they're going to have to cancel this. Black clouds are coming in. You can hear the waves crashing. And Michael's already in his raft just on the sand, and we're getting ready to go into the ocean. And he all of a sudden says, Dad, no. I'm not going in there. I don't want to go. And I go, really? You really? Okay, we'll just do the bike part and the run part. And there were some girls next to us. It was a big group of us, but there were some girls next to us. And they said, are you leaving? And we go, yeah, Michael doesn't want to do the swim part. It seems too rough. And then the girls, both of them go, oh no. The only reason we came to this race was to be with Michael, and you're not gonna do this? And then Michael looks up at these two girls, pretty girls, and he goes, I didn't say I wasn't gonna do it. I said, so you changed your mind now? And he's like, yeah, Dad, let's get in there. What are you waiting for, right? So we ended up doing it. It was a nasty, rough ocean swim, but he did it. He got, soaking wet and just a mess. But you know what? I was like, look at him. He's going to go in shark-infested waters for the beauty.
Obviously, Michael speaks.
He speaks with slurred speech. So, if he talks to somebody that doesn't know him and he's on the phone, they think they're talking to somebody who's drunk. So but he has a great attitude about it. He understands people very well now.
Got it. It's funny that mansion you're describing sounds something like out of X-Men.
Hey, you know what? Like, that's a good description. But it's in a place called Chestnut Hills in Philadelphia, and today they still do it. And they do incredible work. Michael today is, if you look at him today and interact with him, a neurologist would rate him as a low moderate brain injury person instead of a high severe brain injury type person. Without looking at the brain, you still look at the brain, it's going to have the same look. It's going to look severely damaged, but his function, he holds 2 part-time jobs. He works for the Miami Dolphins. He works for the Florida Panthers, part-time as a greeter. He received an award from the NFL on the Super Bowl we recently had here in Miami for outstanding customer service. He's a do-gooder, high initiative kid who just, if you didn't know that he has a serious brain injury that affects his mobility, you would think you're talking to some high action, high achieving person.
Before we go more into Michael, I do Spartan stuff, and I know you do some of that. How the heck do you do this, towing a kid? It's like, I know you do it out of love, but you're a beast. Well,
I'm not very fast, but we still cross the finish line. It takes us a long time.
Holy cow! I'm going to ask you, how much does a 30-year-old kid that you're towing weigh?
He's about 150 pounds. He's not heavy. He's pretty lean.
150 pounds is not heavy. You're lugging a 150-pound guy all the way up and down this stuff. Dude, you're a beast. It's incredible.
You also have to as you know, Terry, Jim's background is very, very colorful. I mean, he's had like 4 different careers, in one.
Yeah.
And Jim, I'm going to let you, share some of that. And in the process of sharing that, what would you say in your background, in your history, in your DNA, in your attitude that got you ready and prepared for something like this?
Well, that's a really great question. And I believe it all started just at a very young age. My parents got a divorce when I was 7, and my mom did a good job of kind of camouflaging it as if my dad went to the army and he'll be back soon. And he just never came back. And then, I was just kind of like no leadership, no mentor, no role model for me. So I just kind of like was doing it myself. And I kind of felt a little bad because I had a younger brother, 1 year younger than me. And I kind of felt bad, like, I don't feel equipped to help him, mentor him, lead him. But I always had that on my mind. And I just felt like, since I'm the oldest, this is my role. And so, my mom got me and my brother involved in martial arts at a young age, and, in sports. And, when I was in high school, and I played football, and I was hoping to get a scholarship to go play ball. And I almost did, but I had only one school interested in me in Georgia. And I ended up not. And I chose to go in the Air Force. I went delayed enlistment, went in at 17, and thought that would be the best move, because I really believed at that time that if I would have gone to college, I probably would have failed. I was not the right mindset for it. And I was a really kind of I went in a lot of different directions. I was dating girls that were drug dealers. But I was still an athlete. I was an athlete, but I was a party animal, and I was in fights, and I went to jail. I mean, bunch of times. Yeah. I went to jail a bunch of times. So I had a roller coaster of a childhood, teenage year. And I didn't really start, trying to get responsible until my junior year, when my head coach for my football team knew that I didn't have a dad, knew that I was always in trouble. And he started, like, I would go to his house after practice, and he would just kind of be like a dad for just a couple hours before I went home. And then I go home. He just recently passed, but he was a great man, great leader. A lot of football players loved and respect him, and he laid a major impact on me. And he really got in my head, like, you have great potential, Jim. You need to think about which direction you want to go in, because he had all those kind of talks with me. And I really felt like, wow, this guy believes in me. I almost felt like I couldn't let him down now, right? So, I went to the Air Force, and the Air Force was the best thing that ever happened to me. Those 6 years of active duty service were just the best, just the best. I mean, my first tour was in Asia. I went to Misawa, Japan. And when I went there, I got involved in powerlifting and strongman competitions. There was this one competition where the strongman stuff were just like the strongmans that we see on these world championships, But we had one event where you had to actually roll over a car. It was a little Mazda. You guys remember the Mazdas? Well, here's a Mazda with no wheels on it, right? No wheels on it. It's just sitting on its belly. And it's just on its belly. So all the wheels are taken off. And I'm watching, there was a bunch of us, like 30 athletes. And I think I was like in the halfway. I think I was like number 15. So before I got up, I'm watching all these other guys trying to flip this car. So, they're holding it under the axle, and they're deadlifting it, and they're trying to clean it, because they time you on how fast you can. Once it rolls and it's on its roof, then the clock stops. So I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? And I was pretty strong at that time. I was deadlifting heavy. I was doing all the heavy stuff. And I said, I know I can lift that thing. I just want to see how fast I can lift it. So the engine was in the back. It was in the trunk. The engine wasn't in the front. So everybody was lifting on the front. And as they lifted it up, it kind of spun a little bit, kind of pivoted a little. And I said, I'm going to lift it from the back. So I was the only person that went to the back axle, grabbed the axle, and, I positioned myself good. It was a little slippery. It was a little muddy. It was raining. And I said, I can't slip under this car. This thing's going to land on me. So I ended up lifting this thing, and I just gave it all I had. And I ended up rolling it over in 6 seconds. It ended up, and I was the first person to do it. But everybody followed my technique. So guess what happened? Everybody improved, right? So each person that did it got better and better and better. And the fastest time was 3 seconds. So I ended up getting second place in it, but that strongman competition was really cool. There was all kinds of cool things. You had to bend rebar. You had to blow up a football. You had to pull a van on a track. The whole 400 meter. You had to pull a van that's chained to around your waist. So anyway, that was strongman competition, and I did some powerlifting competitions in Southeast Asia. Got to go to the Philippines, where there was a Far East powerlifting competition I got to compete in, and loved it. I was just a meathead. Lived, breathed Muscle and Fitness magazine, and ate like a pig. And then I finally, when I got stationed to the U.S. When I got stationed in the U.S., I had an opportunity to go to NSA in Washington, D.C. There's only 3 places in my job then that I could go to. So I didn't want to go to NSA because the only other option I had was Homestead, Florida, and Texas. So I said, let me go to Homestead. And because while I was playing, I actually played football for the Air Force when I was in Japan. So not only did I do powerlifting, but you could actually play football, and real football. And we're playing football, like college level football, against the Marine Corps, Navy, and we're traveling. I'm thinking, I'm active duty and I'm playing football. I mean, that's my job. I'm playing football. And then when the season's over, you go back to your job and you're doing your job stuff. But I thought it was the coolest thing because I was saying, this is what it must feel like to be a pro athlete, where you're actually getting a salary and you're playing football. So anyway, I played football, had a blast doing that. I mean, we had a great team. And then because I did that, I ended up making some good contacts politically. And so I had orders to go to Washington, D.C. And I said, I talked to the general of the base, and I said, do you think you could change my orders? I'd rather go to Homestead. And he already liked me because he liked football. And so we already had good rapport. You don't normally talk to generals. And so finally he just said, yeah, he said, I'll get it done for you, Jim. Sure enough, a month later, I had orders. I'm going to Homestead. So I went to Homestead powerlifting community again, started doing all that stuff down there. But while I was down there, I ended up, I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian. And while I was down there, I was taking time to go. I was lifting weights and doing my job and everything. But I started a ministry in the Miami jail and started doing Bible studies for prisoners by myself. I would go there and just, randomly at different times, and I would spend time, read the Bible to some guys. And I saw some crazy stuff going on in the jails, man. And then never did I ever think that down the road I was going to be a cop. The cop the cop in me wasn't there yet, right? So I'm still just an Air Force sergeant at the time. So then I ended up going to Italy. When I got to Italy, my last tour was in Italy. When I got to Italy, I was the only powerlifter there. And, I was, working on my degree, I wanted to finish the Air Force with a bachelor's degree. So, I was going to school all the time and I was lifting weights all the time. But as soon as I got there, I saw all these meatheads in the gym and they're all ripped. Everyone's ripped, abs all delted out and everything. And I'm like, and there I was, this big, bulky powerlifter. And so I started making friends with all the meatheads in there. And they go, you should do bodybuilding. And I'm like, nah, not for me. I like lifting heavy stuff and that's it. Anyway, they convinced me to do it. So they said, we'll help you, because I don't know what to do. So they ended up teaching me how to get lean, how to get ripped. I competed in the first Armed Forces Mr. Italy competition and won. I won the middleweight competition, right?
Of course
so then it makes you eligible to compete in the European Championships. So I went on to the European Championships with the guys that were helping me. One of them was a light heavyweight and the other one was a heavyweight. I was the middleweight. So we go to Germany, we go and compete there. I get killed. I'm in 13th place. People there were ripped, big, but I ended up meeting some guy, and he represented Italy of all the health food stores, pretty much like the GNCs in Italy, from the middle of Italy down, all the way down south. He was the president of all these health food stores, and he says, you have a lot of potential. And I described to him, how I was dieting and everything. He says, you're doing everything wrong. So he's taught me. He says, I'll make a deal with you. He says, if you teach because he owned 3 gyms. He says, I have 3 gyms that are located near your Air Force base. He says, if you go to my gyms and teach people how to lift weights, I'll sponsor you for next year. Because if you listen to me, I promise you, you're going to do much better, right? I'm like, wow, I know nothing. So I'm in. So I used to go to all of his health food stores whenever I wanted, and they all knew me, and I could just pack up a shopping cart and leave free. Isn't that crazy? Crazy. I go, this is what it must feel like to be a sponsored athlete, right? First time for me. Yeah. So long story short, he ends up helping me. I grow, and I'm learning all kinds of stuff, and I'm really starting to get it now, right? And I'm not losing muscle. I lost a lot of muscle in round one. Not losing muscle, sparing most of it. And I go in there, I win Italy again, and then I go to the European Championships. I came in fifth. And it wasn't an easy fifth. It's a funny story, and we don't have time for that on this podcast on how that night went. But it was crazy how it worked out. And people, just looked at me and they go, "You're a different dude, man. What'd you do different?" And I pointed to my sponsor, an Italian guy named Stanley. Go figure. Right? So then I leave. I get out. I leave the Air Force. I left after 6 years. I didn't make it a career because the Air Force was going in a different direction, and I was thinking, I'm going to go and just go ahead and go live in the United States. So I go home, and I decide I want to be a cop. So I sign up. I become a cop for the Miami Police Department. I got out of the Air Force in 86, 87. I became a cop, and I'm very driven. I'm all still like militaried out. So as soon as I go in the police academy. I'm all fired up. I'm one of the class leaders, and I'm the first one in the class. I'm the last to leave, and I'm trying to win every award there is possible in the academy, and I'm loving it. I enjoyed the police academy. So 3 years later, I get married and have my son Adam, and then a year later, exactly, I have my son Michael. So there's the background of where I love structure, I love challenges, and I love to watch the evolution of change that just makes great progress. I just love it. I still love it to this day.
Right there, I think that's why God gave you Michael. You love challenges. Who better gift somebody with somebody that loves challenges? I think he gave you that gift because he knew you could handle it. So that's
well, I like what you're saying, because when people always ask God, can you do this for me, do this for me, do this for me, do this for me, God, God's answer is like, you know what, or do this for somebody, like there's the homeless, go help the homeless. God, why do you have the homeless? He says, that's why I made you go fix it. You have all the talent to fix the homelessness. You go do it. You want me to wave my wand and fix it? No. That's why I created you.
Yeah, that's good.
Jim, I'll tell you, your story, I as a dad, this whole dad and son thing really always moves me tremendously. There's something in my core that just, short of being in tears, especially after reading the chapter that you provided, in regards to the book that's coming out, that we'll get into that in a little bit later, but I couldn't read it with a dry eye, man. It's so moving, and it's so inspirational, and and Terry and I, we were talking about you, and it just, and even the person that referred you to me, who I think is a super dad as well, James, but when James said to me, he goes, no, I'm not a dad. This guy, Jim, is a dad. He's like the ultimate dad to do and be dedicated and to live the way, especially, having such a colorful background like you had shared. So, but it's all, it all was like a stepping stone. And you understanding nutrition like you do, you understanding how the body functions like you have, pushed it to the limit, has all built this stage that is perfect for both your boys, as a perfect model. So after telling those stories, I'm going to switch some gears. We're going to do something that we have a lot of fun with, Dr. Terry and I, and it's called rapid fire questions. I have selected 5 questions that I'm going to ask you that you got to answer quickly too. Now, we always say that, but man, we get hung up on when somebody gives us an answer that we go, Whoa, I want to talk about that. So
Wait, we get
don't
hung
be
up
surprised.
on?
We get
Yeah.
We-
Right.
Yeah. All right, I get hung up on it. Anyway, Jim, you have the answers. So don't fear the rapid fire questions. You have the answers, and I know you're a quick thinker. So, are you ready for question number 1? What do you do, Jim, to inspire someone that is having a difficult time in life?
I always say serve. Just serve. The minute you're down on yourself or you have a hardship, get busy trying to serve someone else, and that'll immediately make you forget about your stuff.
I love that.
Perfect.
Dr. Terry, doesn't that remind you of a couple of the Navy SEAL and the first responder that we interviewed?
Yeah.
They're all about serving. They have a nonprofit. That's like you, Jim. I'm seeing a pattern with these guys. I love it.
Yeah.
Question number 2. What song fires you up to train when sometimes you just don't feel like training?
Oh, there's a bunch. There's a blend of, classic rock and roll, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, and then there's Survivor, all the Rocky songs. It's funny because when I'm out of gas and I'm I got my headphones on running and I'm just about done. I'm like I can see my house like a few feet away. All of a sudden the next song comes on and it's like Eye of the Tiger and I'm like, oh no, I got to make a U-turn now and I got to go do some more because it just gets you motivated.
See, I hear Eye of the Tiger and I just run to my house faster.
I just feel like it's about 4 minutes. I could probably get another mile out of that. So let's just go run for a mile.
Isn't it amazing what music can do for us?
That's why they don't allow it in competitions because they know you'll have an edge.
Oh.
Yeah, you can't do an Ironman or a marathon or anything like that that's competitive and wear headsets because they know you'll have an edge. Yeah, it's better than caffeine.
Very cool. I like that. Yeah, I love
totally.
it. That's true. Question number 3, Jim. Best tip for other caregivers to fill up their own cup when they feel drained.
Again, I have to fall back on serving. You just got to find the need. Find out what the need is for others, and you'll get meaningful purpose for yourself. There's something about when you complete a task. I don't care if you're cleaning out your closet. When you complete cleaning out your closet, how is it that you have energy? The reason you have energy is because mentally you've accomplished something, and that's a very subtle, quiet, subconscious attaboy. So you're patting yourself on the back and don't even realize it, and you get all this energy because now you want to go paint the house, you want to go cut the grass, you want to go do this, and every time you do that, all it does is add more fuel to the fire. So the same happens when you serve others. If somebody's down on themselves, you just join me in this. You can challenge them. Say, hey, I'm gonna go help this person. We're gonna get rid of their landscaping because it's all weeded out. You want to come join me? No, I don't feel like it. I'm gonna sit there and drink some whiskey all by myself. I go, no, you're not. You can't be alone for one. So come join me and help me out. Even if you only carry my food, you're gonna come with me.
There's a saying I often share or impart on others: that energy begets energy. The more you put out there, the more you get back.
Yeah.
And that is how we serve. Question number 4, Jim. What was the toughest race?
Oh, yeah, I see it. All right, I see it already. It was a Spartan race. It was an ultra, and it was in New Jersey. I don't know if you guys know what the ultra is. The ultra is it's 32 miles with 60 obstacles, and they give you you gotta get it done. I mean, the halfway mark, they have a halfway mark. If you don't make it to the halfway mark, they cut you. And it was hard because I ended up losing my head lantern, and you're in the woods and there's no lights out there. Right? So I lost my lamp, and by the time, it's a long day. So usually they have like these tapes, it's kind of like your road map tape that's taped along these trees because you can't see trails. It's all dark. So what I would do is I could see Lance in front of me, and I go, oh, there looks like a group up there. So I just said to myself, between me and them is land. So I'm just going to do a straight beeline straight. And, there's stuff you're going to trip over. It's like branches and rocks, and, you're in the woods. And And that's how I had to finish. And, I finished in time. It was wet. It was cold. I ended up, I never had hiccups like I did after that race. And I'm thinking, what is causing the hiccups? I had hiccups for a week, right?
Oh my God.
So I'm thinking there's got to be something physiologically related to having hiccups. So I did some research and I found out that the reason you get hiccups, there's oxygen deprivation. So I really screwed up my body during that ultra, and it was directly related. I mean, the hiccups was almost kind of like a hardship, a physical hardship. I went to some place, when you have these big ultra Spartan competitions, they usually have them in small towns, kind of like out in the boondocks, But what happens is a lot of the stores and restaurants, and they're not equipped to handle the mass amount of people that come in there, and they just wreak havoc on the town, eating up all their food. So when you go to restaurants, they're out of food. It's funny. I know you see them when you go to these Spartan races. You're like, they go, sorry, we're out of steak, we're out of this, we're out of chicken. And I'm like, what happened? They go, all the Spartan people came here and ate it up, right? So I ended up having to go to some bar, and I ate nachos, right? I'm eating nachos and having some drinks, and I'm having hiccups the whole time. And the bartender's laughing. He's like, why are you having all these hiccups? I'm like, I don't know. I still don't know. I don't understand it. And then the next day I woke up with hiccups. Next day, hiccups. I said, I got to find out what's causing this. And it's physical. It's related to oxygen.
Wow. You weren't towing Michael on this ultra, were you?
No.
Okay,
that's way too brutal for him. The longest Spartan I've taken Michael on is a 13 miler. It's usually the Beast 13 miler.
You took Michael on the Beast?
A few of them. We've done a few.
So when you're doing all the hanging stuff, like the benders and the beers, are you dangling him, or how's that work?
No way. No. What?
So he just goes from obstacle to obstacle with you?
Most of the events he's on my back, and then I take him off my back and put him in his stroller, his race chair, and push him between obstacles to the next obstacle. Or if it's water, we'll put him on like some board or something and swim across with him. And then, but when it comes to like rope climbing and stuff, I'll get assistance. So he'll be on my back like a backpack. And, when I rope climb, I'll get help to rope climb. Or if I climb up most of the walls, I'll have somebody at the top, and they'll grab him. And if you look on our website, you'll see how we transfer Michael over some of these obstacles. But usually I try to figure out how I can do the obstacle with him on me. And if I can't do it, I get the group involved, and then we all participate in trying to get him. And not just him, we bring others too. We did a race last year in Boca where we had 10 wheelchair athletes with us, and we had 50 volunteers. And we took all of those people through the obstacles. And we've done this with lots of groups, but our largest group was 10 wheelchairs.
How are you doing the multi-rig? Are you able to keep him on your back and do all that grip stuff, or you have somebody holding him up from the...
No, on that one, I'll put him actually, have him sit on my shoulders, and I'm not even doing it. I'll just have him sit on my shoulders, and I'm walking through it, and I'm just having him touch. He's just touching the things with his hands, so he feels like he's involved.
Okay.
Yeah, some things you just, you got to let them touch it, let them feel it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, question number 5. See? Yeah, Terry, you're the one who got sidetracked this time.
He mentioned Spartan races, and I went, all right, I'm in.
I'm going to mention something after these 5 questions that it deserves to be mentioned about what Jim's up to, but we'll get into that in a second. It'll knock your socks off. Question number 5, though. Please tell us the funniest experience you had with Michael during any of these competitions.
Oh gosh, there's so many of them. there's so many funny ones. Gosh, let's see here.
You told me one the other day.
Remind me.
And I'm sure you guys were you're swimming and towing Michael in the boat, and during these races, some people are just out of gas and they're grabbing on. And what does Michael do?
Yeah, he starts yelling at them and starts trying to hit them. And these are people that are that are, trying not to drown. And they're grabbing onto his boat thinking that he's a lifeguard, and they hold on to it trying to save themselves.
Meanwhile, Jim's like towing everybody at this point.
Oh, so you know what? That is funny that you mentioned that, because Michael's therapist, he's a great athlete. He's just a wonderful, wonderful person. So he's a black Haitian guy, ripped, was a linebacker in college football, has his own practice now. And he says, Jim, I want to do a triathlon. He does marathons and stuff, but swimming is new to him. So I said, all right, let's do it. I said, let me see you swim, though. I want to see how you swim first before you, no pun intended, dive in. And so I go watching him. So we go to a pool. He starts swimming. I go, oh, my God, you need some help, man. You're not going to be able to do this. I said, we got 2 weeks to get you ready. So we go over some drills and I teach him. And, because he's such a good athlete, he nailed it. He was ready. So we go to the race. We swim out to the buoy out in the ocean. We turn right and the current changed. The current was going south. All of a sudden, we're thinking we're going to swim with the current. Switched. Now we're swimming against the current. So we feel like salmon. So once we made that turn and it started pouring rain. So this is his first ocean swim. All right. And he's freaking out. Freaking out. And I didn't know he was freaking out until I saw him on the bicycle later. So I make the right turn, we're going, all of a sudden, as we're swimming, and it was a hard swim for me. As I'm swimming, I felt, when you go fishing and you got a nibble and all you got to do is you got to jerk the pole so you can catch the fish. I'm getting a nibble because the rope is wrapped around my waist. So I feel this strong, powerful nibble. I go, is that a shark? Is that a shark grabbing the boat? So the visibility is terrible. And I can't see anything on top of the water, let alone under the water. And then it goes away. I don't feel it anymore. So I start to swim again. Meanwhile, because I stopped swimming, I lost distance, right? The current is pushing me away. So that happens 3 times, right? I get this big jerk pulling on my waist. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And I was nervous because I'm thinking, what the heck could this be? And finally, I make it to the finish line on the swim part. I carry Michael over to the area where the bicycles are. I get him all set up on the bike, and we start taking off. And as soon as we take off, we're only a mile in on the bike, and his name is Guy. It's spelled Guy, but in French it's Guy. And Guy, he pulls up next to me, and goes, Jim, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what happened? And he goes, no, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, no, I panicked in the water. I had an anxiety attack when I turned around that buoy and I had to hold on to the boat. I go, you were holding on to Michael's raft? He goes, yeah, I couldn't let go, man. I had to stay on it. Thanks for pulling me in. I go, are you serious? And I started laughing, and it's pouring rain on the bike course and we're laughing. And I'm like, I thought you were a shark, man. I thought you were eating the boat. I got to say, that's probably the funniest. It's funny on Guy's behalf, though.
Jim, I just got one more thing, one more question in regards. It's not any of the rapid fire questions. It's, could you please share with the listening audience what you just were telling me that you were going to do on a paddle?
Oh, yeah. Well, this past June, we did it. So our foundation supports other charities. There's probably about 6 of them that we support. And then last year, a friend of mine owns a gym up in Jupiter, and he met a new client. And this client, it happens to be the executive director of Piper's Angels Foundation. And what they do is they're a nonprofit for people with cystic fibrosis. So once a year, they have their signature event is a paddleboard adventure from Bimini, the Bahamas, and they paddleboard to Florida, to Lake Worth. It's 82 miles. You start at midnight, and by the time you get to Palm Beach, it's about 3, 4, 5 o'clock. So I saw the video, and the day that I saw this, we already had a scheduled meeting call because my friend says, you got to meet my friend Jim, and then one thing led to another, and we connected. And when I did a little vetting on him first, and I saw the YouTube videos about the crossing, that's what it's called. I'm like, whoa. I got to register. And I said, I'm going to pull Michael in a kayak doing it. And then I said, and I signed up, I registered, boom, 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 1, 2, 3. And then 2 days later, I got to meet the executive director. His name is Travis Suit. And we met, and he's telling me all about it. And he noticed I registered. He says, I'm glad you registered. You're going to do this. And I said, I'm going to need some permission because, the way I want to do it is I want to pull my son in a kayak across. He goes, wow. He says, we never had anybody do something like that. He says, you'll be our first. I go, well, good. I said, and he described to me how to do it. And so, we just did that this past June. So but we ended up gathering more people. So when I shared my story with others, we have a team of 6 paddlers that came with us, 2 boats, a boat crew of 4 people. It was good. And we signed up again. We're doing it again this next June 23rd. We have different paddlers. Half of them are going to come back, but the other half said they were one and done. But it was an incredible experience. And you guys are welcome to come. You want to be a boat crew or if you want to actually paddle. But the cool thing about it, and it's part of my DNA is, I didn't know how to paddleboard until January. So I started learning how to paddleboard in January. I already registered before I learned how to paddle. And then I said, now that I'm registered, how do you paddleboard? What do you do? And then I had to go buy one. And then, I started learning and they help you. They give you tips and stuff. And so does YouTube. And just getting out there day after day after day and just, putting time on the board.
Hey, Jim, I'll tell you this. I will do it with you if you can get my partner to do it.
To paddle? I'll do it.
So if you can get him out there, maybe we'll.
Now
go
you don't have to do the whole 82. You don't have to do the whole 80 miles. You could do 20.
Oh no! If you're gonna do it, you gotta do it. No. If you do it, you gotta do it. So if we can get my partner in the wire out of the gym, I'm in.
And I'm gonna tell you, it's not as hard as you think. I thought this was going to be a grueling, probably the hardest endurance thing I ever did. I mean, it was challenging, but it. Spartan's much harder. Spartan is much harder. There's something majestic about seeing nature out there in the middle of the ocean, and you just see wildlife out there, and you just see ocean all around you. It's like being in a desert, just desert. You see nothing. You don't actually start seeing that little line of land until you're 20 miles away. And then okay, I only got 20 miles to go before I hit land. But it is spectacular. And you talk about an inspiration. It's if people don't believe in God and you're out there in the middle of the ocean, you're going to believe in God, especially when that sunrise comes up. That sunrise is incredible. I mean, you're paddling for 6 hours in the dark. All you see are these little glow sticks on people's chests. And after a few hours, it gets real diluted and people are so separated that then you don't see anybody. And now it's just you and your boat. Your boat is next to you. You got a boat. I mean, the minute you want to get on your boat, you have a boat there. So it's not like you're going to be out by yourself, stranded in the ocean by yourself. Each team of 4 has a boat. It's required. So there was 120 paddlers out there. So we're going to do it again. It's already on our website. So if you want to join our team, you'll see it right on there and you'll get all the information.
All right, Spence,
I would do it, but you got to know that my only biggest fear, and I don't have much of a phobia for things, is dark water.
I'm going to tell you, it'll go away. It's going to go away because you know what? You would think
if it doesn't, you're there for 6 hours.
You adapt to that. You adapt to that like in minutes. You're out there and you see everybody around you. Your team is with you. You and I would be talking to each other the whole time we're there.
Yeah, you would.
I'm in. I'll do it, and I'm sure I will see the Lord while I'm out there. Because that's the only one I'll depend on to get me through it.
It's an incredible.
Speaking of that and having faith in your abilities, please let's take a moment because we're going to be winding down in just a short time about the book, Men of Honor. United Men of Honor. Like I said earlier, I read a chapter and it is extremely inspiring. It's like everything that you have to say is just condensed in this concentrated, emotional, inspirational moment. So please share.
I'm happy to. Thank you. Well, the United Men of Honor is it's 20 authors, and each person uniquely has their own struggle in their life that was very meaningful to them. And the only way that they could overcome it is they had to overcome this adversity through faith. And if you're relying on faith, you're at the bottom. You're already like most people. If they don't already believe in God, reach out to God when they're most desperate, when they're at their last breath, their last possible. What else can I got nowhere where else to go, and then they start praying. All right, God, if you're real, help me. If you're real, show yourself. If you're real, do this for me. And that's what happens to a lot of people. And when people go through some major hardships, they reach out to God. Well, so there's 20 different guys that each have a unique story, and there's some really impactful stories that are in this book. And some of the men are just incredible men. And I'm honored to be included in this group of 20. So I shared my story, and I briefly shared it with you guys on how Michael came into this world and where he is today and where we're going. And, the Men of Honor, it's a faith-based book. And it talks about, how men, when they isolate themselves, how, they want to commit suicide. They're at their end. They're depressed. Isolation is the worst thing any man can do. The book is about men and the masculinity of men and how important it is for men to be men and to lead masculine as a masculine man, to protect. There's really three things that all men, I don't care on what side of the continuum are, if you're a soft man or if you're a Navy SEAL, all in between that, we all are rated in there somewhere. All men have the same thing. All men seek adventure. Every man wants to seek adventure, some kind of adventure. I don't care what it is. Doesn't matter what it is. But there's a drive. There's a drive to have adventure, to be a little scared, to get adrenaline jacked up. All men seek a battle. Now, that doesn't mean you want to go bully on people or stuff like that, but men want a battle. They want some kind of battle. Look at football. Football is a battle. Look at these guys, what they do. Rugby is a battle. All men want a battle. Look at every best-selling book. Look at every blockbuster movie. There's always a battle. No movie doesn't have some kind of battle. There's a battle there. And it makes men, as they sit in their seat, sit on the edge of their seat because they see themselves in that battle. And it just drives them. So we all inherently have this. I don't care what level you're at. And then the last thing is all men want to save a beauty. They all want to protect a woman. They want to save the woman. They want to protect her. They don't want somebody, abusing a woman or a mom or just mistreating a woman. Every man wants to protect the beauty, save the beauty. Look at the blockbusters. They all save the beauty, right? They're always rescuing the woman, and they're all blockbusters. They all have the same outline. So the men, we have to maintain our masculinity, and men need other men to back themselves up. So men like to bottle things up, especially when we get upset with ourselves. We talk bad about ourselves when we're isolated. And honestly, guys, this, even though we are of the flesh and we're all human, we're going to die and we're going to be in the ground at some point. You know what? Amongst us is a spiritual world that really exists. God exists, angels exist, and so do demons. And a lot of demons are in this world to kill us. They want to kill us, and they kill us by us killing ourselves. And I hate to bring it like that. I don't want to bring a downer on this. But men, if they isolate themselves and they're depressed, or if they have an addiction, they got to get around other men. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Christian men. Whatever the problem is, they got to talk about the problem. I don't care what it is. And only if they talk about it a little bit. You talk about it a little bit, and you be casual about it. And the listeners, the friends, it's our job to listen, not giving our opinions. Keep our opinions to ourselves. Our brothers don't want that. Our brothers just want to know that we're in their corner, and that we're going to be in their corner, and that we're here to do this together. I've had several instances in my life that were very bad, not just, the whole hardship with my son, but, almost being killed a few times in police work, and, just bad situations. And, when you're by yourself in the privacy of your bed and you're thinking and rehearsing and going back and forth, you start to criticize yourself, you start to criticize the situation, and you can go in two directions. You can go in a direction of revenge, hate, bitterness, and all that, or you can have a forgiving heart. God asks us to forgive. And when you forgive, you unload a lot. And there's relief from that. If Jesus forgave everybody and mankind killed him, and he said, forgive them. What bigger forgiveness can you give than that? But there's relief in it. A friend of mine who's not of a Christian faith, and he held a lot of bitterness, and I used to go on bike rides with him. And I said, dude, why don't you forgive the guy? I can't forgive the guy. I go, listen, it's not for you. Forgiving him, you're not going to be less of a man. This is going to benefit you. You're going to struggle every night sleeping. You're going to have tormented sleep nights. You're going to have bad dreams because you're holding on to this. You're holding the poison. You got to let it go. Forgive and watch how much relief you got. He forgave the guy. Sleeps at night great now. Best thing he's ever done. And we can all learn from that. So, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent like that.
No, that was
But,
fantastic.
the whole book is about all these men that have these different hardships and how they overcame it through faith. And each time, God has shown himself so many ways to me and Michael. Every time I thought that, this is getting hard, and then I just said, I'm not focusing on this. I'm focusing on moving forward. You just got to move. Those with depression, those fighting with anxiety, those fighting with addictions, don't stay there. Even if you're alone, go for a walk, move, pick a project, do something meaningful. Because when you look at a row of dominoes, once you hit that first domino, the first action starts igniting other actions and other dominoes. And what ends up happening is pick something that you can serve someone else. And what will end up happening is it'll keep you busy. And being busy is going to get you out of your rut.
Yeah. Jim, that is, we couldn't have asked for a better close. Something that keeps people inspired and something that they can bite off and chew on for a while. And, it's, interesting. The book is going to be fantastic. And, I got to tell you, I am of Jewish faith. And regardless, if you look and really find the jewels in what you say, when I was going through some bad stuff, somebody handed me the book, Tough Times Don't Last, but Tough People Do by a Reverend Robert Schuller. That changed my whole world. And your commentary, the book, and reading the chapter is the juice that so many people need, especially now because mental health is at its worst, or will be at its best. So, thanks, Jim. I appreciate
My pleasure.
You being on the show and sharing all your thoughts and feelings and your background. It's great.
And Jim, we're going to have you back because we will do that paddle race, and I want to hear Spencer talk about a story of paddling for 6 hours
in the dark water.
You can't film out on the ocean. You can't do that, huh? You can't do a podcast on the ocean.
Well, we might have to figure that. We might have to get Lance to come out there with us. We'll
do it on a boat. Do it on a boat.
All right, brother. Hey, it's been an honor, and thank you for your time and your energy. And you are on my list already as I come back. So you were fantastic. Thank you for your love and kindness, and for your love of your children. Thank you for being an inspiration to all dads.
Well, thanks for listening, and I hope if one person can be impacted by any of this, our work has been done.
That's right.
It is.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Crackin' Backs podcast. We hope you enjoyed, and make sure you follow our Instagram at Crackin' Backs Podcast. Catch new episodes every Monday. See you next time.